For more on this and the future role that cryptocurrencies will have in the global economy, I'm now joined by crypto financial expert Gabrielle Patrick, the co-founder and CEO of Knabu Distributed Systems. Gabrielle, before I get your comment on this particular story, can you just briefly explain what a cryptocurrency is?
Okay, it's very simple. A cryptocurrency is a digital asset in which encryption is used to generate it, encryption is used to validate its transfer, and all of this happens without the need of a central authority.
Right, but banks don't like cryptocurrencies by the looks of things. This man says he's been discriminated against because he uses one.
Well, unfortunately, this is not a new problem. This has been happening since 2013, especially in the UK. And for obvious reasons, cryptocurrencies conflict with traditional banks' models. And this is why we think that that model is outdated. And this is why we've set up our company to become a bank in the UK that will service specifically crypto businesses.
OK, but do you work with traditional banks to help people do these transactions, combining cryptocurrency with traditional currency? Or is it that you're talking about a standalone bank altogether?
We're talking about re-engineering a bank to use distributed ledger technology, blockchain technology, because we understand how the technology works, we understand how to leverage the technology, and the true utility of the technology is the ability to transfer value or information peer-to-peer without the need for that intermediary. That means faster and cheaper transactions, which everyone can benefit and enjoy.
So interaction between traditional banking and cryptocurrency banking, but by the sounds of things, it doesn't work particularly well with particularly what we've heard from this man.
Well, it's true. Traditional banks have taken a view, unfortunately, that if you even mention the word bit in your business name, they are not going to offer you an account. We've had several colleagues, it's very well known in the sector, that an account will be closed at very short notice. Unfortunately, this man is not unique in his experience. And so, yes, you are correct that in a lot of ways, this peer-to-peer network is incompatible with a traditional bank model. However, there's a way to combine the both for the benefit of the public good.
But how can you convince traditional banks that cryptocurrencies aren't being used for money laundering and for criminals, which of course they are? There's anonymity, isn't there? So there's a great deal of suspicion about these currencies.
Well, this is not true. Cryptocurrencies are pseudonymous, they're not anonymous, which means that even if you do not provide your details, there's a way to track transactions. So that is a myth. It's also a myth that cryptocurrencies carry a higher money laundering risk. We've seen time and time again law enforcement officials, both in the United States and the UK, saying that it's actually the worst way to launder funds because of the traceability of the asset. So that is not true. And in response to your question about traditional banks, this is why we are setting up our own bank. The banks have taken a position where they have invested very heavily in the technology, but are not interested in supporting the innovators or the actual technologists who are building these infrastructures. And so we are a blockchain technology company, which is setting up its own financial institution.
And will you help somebody like me use bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies in my everyday life?
Well, our model to start will be a B2B model, because what is happening is that the innovators are being locked out. Again, unfortunately, this experience of this gentleman is not unique. And so you have the actual drivers of this entire crypto economy, which are locked out of a fiat traditional system. That means, in real terms, that value is not reflected in the UK's balance sheet.
But many of us are still very fearful of this sort of new currency. Do you really see Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies having a future? Or is it something they can work alongside traditional currency? Or is it something where we see traditional currency maybe dying and cryptocurrency taking over?
I definitely think that they work in parallel. I don't believe, I use the example of my mother. My mother doesn't have to understand cryptocurrency, but she could benefit from the technology being used as invisible reals so that she could have an international payment, which doesn't exist today. So to give a very specific example, I was part of the first company to obtain a regulatory license here in the UK for a Bitcoin payments model. That meant that we could settle transactions from one destination to the other in 5 minutes or less at a fraction of the cost. So you're talking about maybe transferring, let's say, from the UK to Asia or Africa, £2, but it costs maybe a couple of pence to do that. And that's where you would benefit from that transaction. You don't have to understand how to trade cryptocurrencies, but it could bring you benefits in terms of cheaper and faster transactions.
Gabrielle, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Gabrielle Patrick.